Hello, I'm Chris Rhodes with Handgun Hunting Afield. Last year I did a blog post on my typical day pack loadout before I'm coming back to camp or to home at the end of the day. And that blog post, which you can still find on the blog, goes over every piece of gear I would carry in my day pack. This video is to go over my multi-day backcountry hunting loadout, and we'll go over my gear, a little bit of why, and you'll get to see everything that I would carry, and hopefully this will help you become more prepared for your backcountry hunt. So first off, what is backcountry hunting? So backcountry hunting to me is getting out away from the crowds. Typically I find that the typical day hunter doesn't get more than a mile or two from where they park the vehicle. I'm generally going out 2 or 3 or 4 times that distance, and I'm staying out there. It's just Mother Nature, the animal, and myself, and I find it to be a super rewarding experience to fill a tag in the backcountry. With that being said, it is a whole lot of work though. It takes physical fitness, and I'll give you my personal story with this. My last bull elk I killed in the backcountry solo, I wasn't exercising a whole lot then, and it about broke me. It took me 4 trips over 40 miles to get him out. The last trip I had help on, and it got me to change my ways. I now run 15 to 25 miles a week to stay ready. I do body weight exercises. Last year it helped out a lot in the field. This year I expect it to help even more, and it's just super important. And so you can backcountry hunt on the East Coast and those national forests back there, or out here in the West on our public lands. Let's say physical fitness is the most important piece of the whole gear puzzle. But so we're going to start off going over my pack itself, some of the larger items that go in it, and then we'll work all the way through the smaller items, and then we'll end with the firearms and such I carry in the field. So stand by, and we'll get going through the gear. All right, so we're going to go over my pack and the larger items that go within it. So first off with the pack, it's largely personal choice. You got to pick what fits you. As long as you buy a good quality pack, it doesn't really matter as long as it fits you and it's comfortable and it does what it needs to do. Packs gone today's price range seem to start around the $500 mark to be a good quality pack for the field, for this backpack type hunting. So for me, I found Exo Mountain Gear to be my pack of choice. This is the K3. It's not their newer K4. As you can see, this one's been used quite a bit. There's still blood stains and stuff on it. I've carried out a lot of game with this one, and it works well for me. I want a good sturdy metal frame for it. I want to make sure this pack fits me. I want to follow the manufacturer's recommendation and buy the right size one for me. When you're buying a backcountry hunting pack, they're not general sizes. They're fit to you, so you got to buy the one that fits you. Some of the big things with fit are shoulder straps, hip pouches, or the hip belt, and so forth. Make sure all that's located properly and the height of them. And so your manufacturer will go over that. I also want a good way to carry pouches right on the belt that I can get to some key items really quickly. We'll go over what's in these pouches typically here in a moment. For a 5 to 7 day hunt, I use their 4800 bag. It also has a lid that adds 500 or so more cubic inches to it. So this is over 5,000 cubic inches of load capacity. And that's how most of your bags are sized, is by cubic inches for your load capacity when you're shopping in the United States for them. This bag works for me. It has nice tubes along the side where I can put spotting scopes, tripods, tents, so forth. Quick to get 2 pouches. It's largely a duffel style design. Stuff it from the top. But you do have this mid zipper where you can access some things if you strategically pack in the middle of your hunt. You can get to those. The lid will have some more quick access pouches on it as well. Let's say this works for me. So some of the bigger items in my pack, and these are very, very important, just as important as anything else. You gotta be able to stay warm out there. This is expanded. You don't store a sleeping bag or a quilt compressed. But when this is compressed, it gets quite small. This is my Enlightened Equipment quilt. It's a 10-degree quilt. It works for me all the way up through my November hunts. Keeps me comfortable in the field. I love a quilt versus a sleeping bag because the fact that I can half cover up with it or whatever. I don't have to get in it like I would a sleeping bag. I kind of adjust it to regulate temperature as far as how much I cover myself. And this is their convertible one where you can actually zip it into like a mummy bag as well if it's just frigid cold out there. So the quilt's huge. With that, you need a good sleeping pad. I chose Nemo. It works for me. Also got a little inflatable pillow in here. It gives me plenty of cushion. I still toss and turn a lot in the night in the field. No matter what you do, you're not going to have your Tempur-Pedic bed out there with you. But I found this to be the most comfortable. Along with that, you got to have some kind of ground cover, because if you're sleeping outside on the ground, you may not always use a tent. A piece of tie back works well. You can buy a whole roll of this at the hardware store for hardly anything. It holds up well. It'll crinkle till you get laid down on the ground. Once some weight's on it, it stops crinkling. But this will keep your air mattress in the bottom of your tent from getting punctured. It'll keep the moisture off you and the moisture off the bottom of your tent. Most of your tents will have some kind of bathtub floor to the bottom, but this will keep that from possibly seeping through as well when there's if there's groundwater or whatever. So I don't pack my tent. I don't pack my tent in its bags that get stuffed in pouches on there on my pack. But I use a Nemo also. It's a one-man tent. What I find important with a tent is to make sure you can sit up in it to get dressed. Bivy sacks and stuff like that, they're sometimes lighter, but for my time in the service, I found bivy sacks to be pretty horrible in the field. There's not a whole lot of room to organize. There's not a lot of room to get dressed. And it's just a good way to get wet getting in and out of the bag. These work well. A nice one-man tent. This actually weighs less than most bivy sacks do. I believe it was right around 1.5 pounds for the whole tent. I do keep my tent stakes and tent poles in their bags so they don't end up poking through my pack. So with that, another thing I like with my pack is this crib panel on it. In the back, it's an extra accessory, exocells. It allows me to adjust the height when I put like an elk quarter on here on where it sits, because you want the weight up a little higher on your back. You don't want it hanging way down. And it allows me to strap it down really tight and keep it from moving. This is a great accessory. I'm sure other pack makers have something like it, but it works well. How this works is like on a lot of packs, there's two styles of packs for meat packing out. One, you'll put it in your pack. I think that's kind of gross, because then you got blood and all in there with your camp gear or where your camp gear is going. The more common style that you see a whole lot more makers making is where the meat goes on the load shelf, which goes between the bag and your pack frame. So the meat would end up sandwiched between this. This would fold down like so. You put your meat in here and fold this over. And say pretty much every maker makes one that does that in some way, shape, or form. But so what goes on my pack belt? We're going to cover this stuff. These are some small items we're going to cover. This is all my stuff I want to be able to quickly get to. So when I'm processing game, I always want a fixed blade knife. Just something small does just fine. This little 2.5 inch or 3 inch blade or whatever, this will clean every big animal out there. I clean plenty of elk with this thing. Good and stout, so you can use it for camp chores as well. You don't want some flimsy knife. I like a fixed blade right there where it's easily accessible. In one pouch, I'll also keep some disposable hearing plugs, ear plugs there. These might be in my pack or in my pack belt if I'm just hiking in or whatever. But normally I wear them the whole hunt, but they're my electronic earplugs. These have been the best investment I've made in hunting. It allows me to hear better, like hearing aid quality sound. Plus they protect me when I'm shooting. The suppressors are great and all, but they don't amplify the noise you're hearing. This amplifies the noise I'm hearing, just like hearing aids would. So it helps me detect game. It's great when you get into a herd of elk and you can hear them all talking, tell what's going on. I also keep a Leatherman in there. It was actually a Gerber. I've had this since I went to Iraq. It's been a few places. A little multi-tool is great to have. I keep it right in my pouch there. On this other side here, I'll also put like an elk call or something in here somewhere if I need it, or predator calls if I'm bear hunting. I keep multiple flashlights because carrying extra batteries is silly because you don't know if the bulb goes bad. I just take extra lights. Keep a small string light. This one clips on a hat as well, so it can be a headlamp. I also keep this little flat Nebo one that I just bought. It's rechargeable. Wind checker. I'll keep lens wipes. These are the Zeiss ones you can buy at Walmart. You got big boxes of them. You need to be able to clean your optics out there. Then I carry all my spare batteries. So like for my sights, we'll need little 2032 batteries. I just wrap them in tape so no metal can make contact with them and possibly drain them. Same with my rangefinder battery, wrap it in tape. That tape could be reused to wrap the dead one, or what you think is dead, so it doesn't short out in your pack or something, or it can be used for maybe some other camp use, starting a fire or whatever else if you needed to. But everything has dual purposes. This extra pouch here, it's just my admin pouch. If I'm out there hunting big game during grouse season when I can legally take grouse, I'll keep a little 22 in here, and I'll show that later when we go over firearms. I'll keep my camera gear in here. This GoPro I'm using to record this will be in here. Takes better pictures in the field. And stuff like that. Little admin things I may need. So on my pack, I also right up front, I always keep a little thermometer and compass right up front. And it's got a little magnifier for reading a map. Pretty handy little tool. So that sums up what my major gear. Now we're going to jump into some of the smaller items. All right, so now we're going to cover all the heavy stuff that goes in the pack. This is where all the weight's at. Between water and food is where the majority of your weight will be. So to start off, we have some pretty important things here. One, you got to have a way to carry water. So through my daily water use, as long as it's warm enough, I'll use a hydration bladder of 3 liters. If it's colder and I got to worry about this freezing all the time, I'll just use Nalgene bottles. I'll carry 2 of them. But say this is important, so you got water at easy access. For camp, when the warmer season, I'll carry these little platypus. They're little 1 liter bags. I'll have 2 of them. They roll up really small in my pack, and I can fill them up and say carry them up to camp for the night to have water to cook with and so forth. You need a way to filter water. I carry a little Katadyn Pro pump filter. Works great for me in the field. Tried a lot of filters. This one seems to be the easiest one for me. I get a new cartridge for it, new filter cartridge every year. So on from water, then you have food and food preparation. So food's really dependent on what you want. I typically just cook dinner. And what I mean by cook dinner is I'm boiling water and doing a mountain house or whatever else other kind of meal. The rest of them will be cereal bars, nuts, so forth. I don't know how some people say they eat these extreme amounts of calories up there, but normally when I'm hunting, I'm at such an exertion level, burning 5,000 to 6,000 or more calories a day. I'm so tired at the end, I don't want to eat, but I have to force myself. I generally carry around 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day, and that's it. That's enough to keep me going. I can eat plenty when I get out. I can eat plenty before I go. I'll be fine. But try to constantly eat throughout the day, so lots of snack things. My stove, I do pretty minimal. I use a little MSR. It's a little folding stove. It folds up, so you can put the pot on top of it. And inside here, I got multiple striking options. I got the striker for the stove, a little lighter. There's a little pot carrier holder. And the fuel cell actually fits inside the stove pot. And then it has a measuring cup on the bottom, so you can measure water to cook those bagged meals. This little pot system works great. It all fits inside this bag. It doesn't rattle around when it's done. It works for me. Real basic MSR stove. It's one of the least expensive options. Then you get into sanitation stuff. Sanitation, baby wipes are great for cleaning yourself in multiple situations. Of course, you know what this is. You got to have TP up there. I also carry one of these quick dry towels. It's great so you can bathe in a stream or whatever you want to do as you're going on. And Camp Sud soap. This stuff works great. And it's good for better for the environment at least too if you're leaving soap everywhere when you get done. You can wash yourself, your dishes, whatever it may be. Along with that food stuff that I left out, I just use a long-handled spoon. I don't want my fingers down in the food. My hands probably aren't going to be the cleanest thing in the world up there. Probably a good idea if I don't put them in my mouth. So a long-handled spoon works for that. With first aid there coming up, I put my own kit together. There's kits you can buy out there. I don't find any of them that cover everything I want. I have everything from boo-boos to major bleeds stop in here, a little bit of medication to a little bit of survival stuff. So there's fire starting stuff in here. There's stuff to close major wounds. There's even some meds in here for pain and stuff. All that's in here. Just put in a Ziploc bag. It stays easily accessible in my pack somewhere. Then we get on to what we need otherwise, like when we finally kill an animal out there. Hopefully we kill an animal. We need a headlamp. You got to have that when you're skinning. If you're skinning in the dark or working around camp, headlamp's huge. Be hands-free. There's a little Nebo one I picked up. It's actually rechargeable. It seems to last a long time. Lots of other options out there. You need string, cord, 550 cord carrying orange. Hang cords up in the field, whatever. Hang my food bag up when I'm away from camp if I'm in grizzly country. Then you also need game bags to put your meat in to pack it out. You'll need 4 to 5 of these depending on what you're hunting. They come in various sizes. It'll depend on what you're hunting. These roll up really small when you put them all together and take your time to roll them up. And they'll fit right down the bottom of your pack, be out of the way. Your kill kit. So I keep a couple just quick draw through knife sharpeners. Sometimes your blade gets dull. Keep rubber gloves in there, rolled up, bottom of the pack down there with those bags. That's important. And then one last segment here for some of the heavy stuff, but something you got to have. It's communication in the backcountry. I carry a little Garmin inReach. It links to my phone. I can text with it to my loved ones back home, let them know I'm alive. They can text me. Works wonderful. Send them my location. I can do an SOS if I fell down a hill or whatever. And you got to have a way to charge stuff out there because we are using our phones and stuff to take pictures or navigate or whatever. Little battery packs work. You need whatever cords go to your equipment. So this is the basics of the heavy stuff that goes in your pack. Food is your major weight, then water. Food is a few pounds a day, and you got your water capacity there, however much you need depending on where you're hunting. If you're hunting Arizona, you might need more than 3 liters for your pack in. You might have to carry in several bladders just to get through there. Here in Wyoming where I'm at, I got plenty of streams and all the pump water. The 3 liters does it just fine. Have a good water filter, and then I have a way to carry water in for camp. Say food, completely up to you. If you're eating 3 Mountain House meals a day, your probably gut's gonna be a wreck. You got to vary it up with some other stuff. Try to take some fruits, even if it's dried fruit with you, something to help you move along. Hygiene stuff. All this is important. This is just as important as the firearms at the end. We got to have stuff to sustain life along the way. Right, so on the clothing, I try to put out some general clothing here. It's going to change a lot based on weather and where you're going. But up first is boots. So there's a lot of brands out there. I'm not brand loyal to any of these, but say Crispis fit my feet the best. You just want to make sure you spend a little bit of money on these. There's Crispis, there's Kenetric, there's Zamberlin, and so forth. Good boots seem to start around $300 and go up. You don't want to wear your rubber muck boots that you might be wearing back east trying to avoid deer detecting you from odor. You want to use actual hiking boots. You want stiff-sided boots so you can side hill, and you can climb up those hills and stuff and not hurt your ankles and so forth. Along with boots goes good socks. So I run my boots with 0 insulation. I'll use socks for insulation. Early season, I'll use these light socks. All my socks are by Darn Tough. They hold up really well. They're wool. You want wool socks. You do not want anything cotton up the hill. But these right here go about halfway up the calf. They work well. And in late season, I'll use the over the calf ones that come all the way up to the bottom of the knee. And then I'll put my long johns and tuck them into my socks. And they keep me warm pretty well. Coming on up from socks and boots, we got pants. I've tried everything out there. The cheapest ones that work is the Wrangler Outdoorsman. You can buy them at Walmart for about $20 a pair. They work fine. They just stretch out over time. By like the second day of the hunt, they are loose and baggy. You're going to have a hard time keeping them up. I went with Stone Glacier. Stone Glacier makes a great pant that I've found. The belt's internal, so my pack belt the pack belt off my backpack doesn't snag on the belt and push my pants down. And then they repel water pretty good. They got side zips for vents, good pockets. I found these to work really well for me. Shirts, I like Stika shirts. As you see, I jump around in brands. I just pick what works. Stika shirts work well. I use their ventilated ones. I'll use long, short sleeve, whatever. I use all different cuts of them, just depending on what I need. My first warming layer up from that, if I need be, would be some kind of fleece weight material. I just got this Stika. I was using a Killick green fleece before. So they wear out with time, just from friction and all. But this right here will probably be just fine. I haven't used it in the field yet. I've been using a Killick fleece that was like $50 for a long time that worked just fine. My outer shell for waterproof protection and wind protection will be some kind of Gore-Tex. There's no other liner in it, no other insulation. It's just Gore-Tex. This is by Nomad. It's a little heavier than some of the other ones. I tried some of the lighter ones and they would rip and tear. This is in the middle between some really heavy stuff and some really light. It keeps the water off, keeps the snow off, blocks the wind, and it's pretty quiet moving around too. You don't want some crinkly outer shell that's gonna make a bunch of noise. You're always gonna need some kind of glove. I wear some light leather ones sometimes just navigating rocks. These are my lighter insulated ones I wear. These are also by Stone Glacier. I found I can shoot in these. That's something else to try out. If you're shooting a handgun, or if you're shooting a handgun, you're going to have to make sure that you can shoot your handgun to the same point of aim, point of impact with gloves on. And I found these thinner gloves by Stone Glacier to work. They have all the way down to no insulation, which is a merino outer shell that work pretty good, to these with a little bit of fleece lining, and then they have some heavier ones. And I carry all 3 depending on the season. From there, I always need a hat. You probably have to wear orange in your state. Shelton makes a hat that I find super versatile. Stiff brim, floppy in the back. Keeps the weather off versus a ball cap that may keep the sun off your face. This actually keeps some of the weather off, keeps from going down your collar. It's more versatile. It's better to have more versatile gear than it is to go get something that's not versatile. Of course, we advertise our sponsor on there. When it's colder, I'm right to a knit cap. My wife actually makes these in merino wool. Made right here in Wyoming. We'll probably have some for sale if we get a store up through our blog, but there's nothing beats merino wool. It doesn't hold odor. This is Wyoming locally sourced, and so I've been using these for years. They work great. So these are basic clothing gear. It obviously changes by the trip. I'll generally carry 1 extra shirt with me in my pack, 1 extra pair of underwear. I use the polyester type underwear, so they can be washed easily, so you can wash the sweat and stuff off of them. And with these shirts, so midday you can wash these in the creek, hang them up at camp, let them dry. They'll probably be dry by the time you get back. Extra socks will depend on my trip and where I'm going. Up to 3 pairs of total socks, 1 on me, 2 in the pack, and that'll get me through multiple days. I can rotate them and let them air out. Wool doesn't hold odor a whole lot. They just need to air out, and they'll feel more comfortable when you put them on the next day or whatever. All right, so now for the last part you've all been waiting for. So the guns and the gear that's right on my person. So in the video earlier with my pack, you saw where I had a knife on the pack belt. That knife's used primarily for skinning and such. I also have a small folding knife in my pocket. This just happens to be a Benchmade. It's a backup skinning knife. I can use it for camp chores, whatever else. It's better to have 2 blades in case one fails. Right on my person, I have my Nixon leather rig. This is the foundation of how I carry all my gear. So when I drop my pack, if I got to finish out a stalk, I have everything right here I need to shoot and to detect game at the last bit of the stalk. I have my binos. They're crossbody slung. They're wrapped in a Century Tactical bino wrap. You can search Scope Code online. They're the ones that made these scope covers for decades. It's just a little bino wrap. It'll pad it from the rocks and stuff if you go crawling, because it'll be down here if you're crawling. It could be banging on things. And it seems to keep them clean pretty well. I also have my Coltac biddy bag up here. Then I have my rangefinder on this side. I use a Leica. I found them to be the fastest for me to one-hand range with. The laser, the time of flight for the laser is really quick, so you don't have to be super steady to get your range with it. I also have my drop data for my revolver attached to that rangefinder come hunting season. See, the Nixon chest rig has been the only one I've found to have the proper thicknesses of the straps and the buckles out of the way to work with a heavy pack. Everything else, there's some kind of rub going on. There's buckles in the wrong places. Straps are too thick, causing an uneven set of the pack or whatever. This one he designed. I gave a little bit of input to tweak it at the end, and we've got something perfect. This thing works. You can literally buy your first chest rig and then add holsters to it. You don't have to keep buying straps. And it should last you a really long time. And it works well in the field. So going on from that into the glass, we'll go to the glass next. If you're hunting trophies and stuff, you're going to need a spotting scope, or if you're judging bears. Bears are the toughest animals out there to judge. Sometimes pronghorn as well. I carry a straight spotting scope. This happens to be a Swarovski. When I'm glassing, what I often do is place my binos on top of this, like so. Then I can look through the back of the binos and find the animal. I'm using my tripod then to steady myself as well with the binos. Once I get the animal in the binos, I can then drop down to the spotting scope, and I'm a little closer to being centered on them, so it's easier to find the animal versus trying to look through high magnification to find them. Tripod-wise, this is an off-brand carbon fiber. Works well. You don't have to spend a ton of money here. You just want something that's in the weight range you want, a little ball head on it, and it needs to go whatever height you deem necessary. This goes all the way to a standing height. So on into guns. You saw them. I had the little belt. I told you I might carry a little 22 if grouse are in season when I'm up there. Grouse for great table fare. I'll carry a little 317 in there from time to time, just for grouse hunting. This thing holds 8 rounds. I'll also take another little speed strip in there with it. And this is plenty, and this thing weighs like nothing if I need a grouse gun up there. So an all aluminum alloy gun, 3-inch barrel, adjustable sights. You can get pretty close to grouse, 10 yards or so. This thing works great. You don't have to shoot them with a 460 like I did last year. I got lucky and headshot a couple. Don't know how that worked out, but it did. That was with this thing. My big cannon for elk and such is this 460 XVR Performance Center, running nil grips and Ultra Dot Gen 2 30mm 2MOA. I've dropped elk with this at 220 yards and some other ones in closer. Running a 240 grain cutting edge bullet. This thing is flat, meaning staying within the vitals to past 150 yards. So that's a great cannon for big game animals out there. When the animals are a little bit smaller, say like deer, antelope, black bear and stuff, I'm going to be using this Spore. The Spore 357 running a 105 cutting edge. You saw me do the Texas high fence hunt with it last year. This year we're going to take it into the backcountry with us. Running the 105 cutting edge, it's really flat out to just past 100 yards. We know it kills that far out from our previous experiences with it. We got our nil grips on here. This gun's just a dream to shoot. You can't say enough good about it. Running an Ultra Dot Match Dot in the green this year. And we'll have extra batteries in that pouch as we showed earlier. Oftentimes I run the 2-gun system. And what that means is I'll have a single shot with me. Single shots give me more range, depending on the cartridge. This 6.5 284 is basically a rifle. It bridges the gap between a handgun and a long gun. I can do all kinds of distance with this thing and drop really big animals. And this has killed a pile of animals. If you follow us on social media, you've seen that over the years. This is one thing for that 2-gun stuff. If I can't get within range, that could come out if it's an animal I don't want to pass on. Another option this year I might run some. It's a contender. A contender is a whole lot lighter. This is set up with a burst pistol scope on it. I've got my drop data attached right to the side of the scope, just like I do on the 6.5 284. Multiple barrels for this thing, compact rig, and say I'll carry 5 rounds for it. This little Amazon pouch you can get out of leather. I'll pick the one that's appropriate for whatever cartridge I'm carrying, and this will go right here on my harness, right back here. I can get to it real easy. Good way to carry spare ammo for the single shot. These will be unloaded and strapped on the outside of my pack if I'm carrying one. So my whole pack loadout, all that other gear, not this stuff, all that other gear is right around 45 pounds for a 5-day hunt. That's what I'm getting ready to pack in for. This stuff here, I don't count my total weight because I'm always going to have this on me. It's just going to depend on what revolver I'm carrying, if I'm carrying a single shot, and so forth. If I'm carrying a spotting scope, there's the little variables there. To say, hopefully this video helped you figure out what you need for a Western hunt. Hopefully it helps you get an idea of what you might be getting into if you're deciding to do Western hunting. Western hunting is a blast. You can start out if you're back east on all those public lands back there doing some backpack hunting. It's more rewarding to me to be out there in the woods solo chasing animals than any other method I've hunted. So I look forward to bringing you more content. Give us a like and subscribe, and happy hunting this season.